Awesome. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. As Felicia said, my name is Summer Montenegro, and I will be your instructor today. So before we start, I want to tell you a little bit about myself and a little bit about the project. So I'm a graphic designer at Newell Brands. And if you don't know what Newell Brands is, that's okay. It's one of those kind of like overarching umbrella companies, and they own a bunch of different brands, and I'm actually on their writing team. So I actually get to work on a lot of their brands having to do with all the utensils. So I get to work on Sharpie, Prismacolor, Papermate, all of those. And I'm lucky enough to be able to draw almost like every day. And so I'm really excited to show you guys what I have. So as you know, the class is about postcards. And I also saw someone in the chat asking if they needed a postcard. You do not need a postcard. But the reason why I chose postcards is because I love just sending people a hello that's not just on a phone or a text. As quick as those might be, I also like the ones that are more of a surprise. So I don't know about you, I love getting fun mail. So instead of solicitations or bills, I like to have those cards that kind of come in. So this is what inspired me to show you guys how to do this. A kind of old way of doing things, but I think we can do it in a new way. So before we start, I can show you guys some of the materials that I'm using. So Felicia, if you want to go over to the overhead. Oh, yep, perfect. Awesome. So the first thing is this mixed media postcard paper. And by the way, you can get all of this stuff on michaels.com. I didn't even know they had this, and I was looking for some and I was like, oh my gosh, look, they have it. It's great. And what I love about these is that they're nice and thick because they're mixed media. And so just like an actual postcard, it's not going to bend in the mail. It's actually going to hold a lot of the ink really well. And also what I love is, let me tear one out, is that it has that address line as well as the stamp spot already on it. So it looks even more official just having this paper here. And it's already cut out for you in the right size and everything too. So I'm going to use that paper there. The second thing I'm going to be using is just some Sharpies. I might not be using all of these tip sizes, but I like to have them as an option just in case I want to have something with more of an outline, just something really nice and bold. I can use the chisel or just something ultra fine or just the classic fine too. And then our headliner piece is these Sharpie S notes here. I love this 24 count because it has just so many different colors in here. It's got like a variety of yellows, reds, purples, blues. These are just excellent. And what I love about these is that I know a lot of people see them as more highlighters, just kind of going over words, but I actually use them more as what they're labeled as, which is a creative marker. I don't think I've actually ever used this for journaling. I think I've actually only used it for drawing. So that's what I'm going to show you today. And then one last thing is I like to sketch before I start putting down ink. So if you have a pencil, go ahead and go grab a pencil if you'd like to sketch out with me. If not, you can just watch along and go right into the ink. Sorry about that if you can hear that motorcycle outside. And then another note, this is what I'm going to be referencing, guys. So to start, I want to show you guys just some techniques with the S note before we dive into the postcard. At this point, you can follow along or you can just watch to see how they work first. So this is just a regular mixed media sketchbook, just like the postcard. So it will show up the same. So to start, I'm just going to show you guys some of the layering techniques as well as the tip sizes for these. So I'm just going to take this super light pink and just show you some stuff you can do with it. So what's great about these S notes is you can get multiple tip sizes. So just drawing out one here, you can get some really thick lines here, but then you can also get super thin just by turning it around. Now that might seem like a simple step, but just to let you know that exists. But my favorite part is the layering, which is where you kind of get into how it looks like watercolor. So I'm just going to show you guys just a little bit here. Pretend this is a pink leaf, just say. I'm just going to draw a little shape here and just fill this in using that chisel tip. Really filling that in. And already you can almost see how it has that layering effect on it. But what's great is that without even touching this darker pink, I can go over with the same color, just over top what I already did, and just start trying to add in a shadow here. Just kind of lightly brushing it And then again, you can see how it's fading. It's creating that watercolor effect, just super smooth, super pastel. It's just absolutely beautiful. And so now that I did that, now I can go into my darker, it's more of a salmon color, and then really go in and make those dark in here. I don't want to go too far though, because what we're going to do is we're actually going to blend it a little bit, just like watercolor. So just putting it down a little bit. And what I'm going to do is go back to my lighter pink and use that as almost like my base and also just my blender in here. So I'm going to actually go in from like the bottom and almost pull the colors out. And then not just that, but I might even just go in here near the border of where that dark is and just really kind of go in circular motions, just getting those hard edges out, but then pulling it out towards the lighter area. So now you can see it just has this really nice gradient effect in here. And you can just get from dark to light, and I only use 2 colors, and that whole pack has 24. So the amount of things you can do with this is just absolutely amazing. So now that we know a little bit of the technique that we're going to be using today, now we can dive in and go into the postcard. So the first thing I'm going to do is just sketch out what I'm going to be drawing. So as you see over here, I want to do a little bit of hand lettering as well as some plants over here. So the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of shape out where I want to put everything. So I want to have my plants over on the right, but I also want to make sure that I'm going to have space for my lettering over here. So I'm going to kind of visually divide this postcard in half, just to make sure I don't overdraw the plants to the left. Then what I'm going to do is just start with that pot and just kind of go right where that line is that I drew and just draw that lip. Now, if you see these and you want to draw something more flowery, by all means, please do. I just love cacti because they're a lot easier to take care of because I am unfortunately not a green thumb. So these I can let sit. They have lovely flowers. They're absolutely beautiful. So next, if you guys can see, I have my pot there. Then I'm just going to draw these big bubbly cacti here. What I like about these is that they're super simple to draw, but with these S notes, you can really get some depth in there and they look really fun. You can just add some flowers up there. Just going to draw some circles there. Don't need anything too detailed. We're just going to use it as our reference. I'm going to draw the little guy down here too. And don't forget, guys, while you're doing this, whether you're taking photos or video or anything, don't forget to tag Michael's with Michael's classes and make it with Michael's, because we always love to see what you guys do with these classes. There's so many, and there's so many of you guys, and we just love to see everything that you guys do.
Summer, we did have a question.
Yes, yeah.
Some people were asking if they could draw what they want or if they had to follow your sketch specifically.
Oh no, by all means draw what you want. I just love the idea of making it your own. So like I said, I love cacti, so I'm doing cacti, but I've also done this with just very floral and very leafy plants too. So if you want to do that, by all means. And also I just want to do just saying hello because I like to surprise people with little postcards. But if you want to say happy birthday, or maybe you're sending it to someone and you want to say, you know, good luck, happy birthday, whatever it may be, please do. Everyone do as you will.
And I know you're normally, from a sketching perspective, do it a little bit lighter because you want it to be hidden by, you know, the color afterwards. But if you could do it a little bit darker.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Time seeing it. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I can always erase it. So,
yeah.
And actually what's great about these too is that I've noticed with some sketching, you can actually erase it from underneath the ink. I did not know that was possible, but yeah, so if you sketch it and then do the color on top, you can sometimes erase it from underneath the color. So I'm just going to go on to this big cactus in the back too and just show where that one's going to be and just have these reference lines here for me later. Just put those petals, just really referential. Those are just kind of swirls. Now for the hand lettering, this is where I go into kind of what I do for regular hand lettering, which is kind of blocking it out. So I'm not just going to guess and just write out just saying hello. I'm going to start with a shape. And so you don't need to follow mine. I'm going to make a square, but if you want to do a circle or a triangle or just any shape you want, you can, but that's going to be your reference for where the letter is going to go. So when I draw this square, I'm just going to make sure that it's even between the edge of here and here, just so it's centered just like the reference. So just drawing this out, I'm just going to make a nice square. And then what I'm going to do is I really want hello to be really prominent. So what I'm going to do is divide this square and just kind of have the hello be the bottom 3/4. So again, I'm just going to draw another line here to divide it, just as my guide for when I actually draw it in. Now, some people will actually just go right in with ink now, but if you're a little hesitant about that, you can always write in your letters too. So for me, I might just put just saying, since it's 2 words, I might just write it in so I don't overwrite it or make it too big. Actually, just like that, if you can see, I made it too big. But what's great about that is that you can always erase it and go back. And that's actually why we have these guides here, so we don't overdo it. So don't feel bad if you went over. And another thing too is you can always adjust your square too. It's your drawing. It's your lettering. You can always move it over. So just say if I want to like move it over just a little bit, maybe I'm feeling it's a little cramped, just redraw your guide however it fits nice. And then I'm just going to write in that hello too, just to make sure that I know where it's going to go.
And again, it's a little light, so if you could just
Is it?
darker or hold it up.
There we go. So once we have this reference down, now we can actually go right into the coloring. So the first thing I'm going to do is color the lettering, just so that I'm not putting my hand over top at any point. So I'm going to start from the left to the right. So starting with the lettering, I want to have something really bold because I'm going to have these plants be more of a blue and green. So that's why I'm going to have that salmon color here. So let me actually grab that blue first. So I'm just going to grab this super light blue. It's almost like the color of the sky. I'm just going to open this up. And I'm going to use that fine tip we were talking about before and not the chisel tip. I'm just going to fill in that spot where I have it saying just saying. Because then this will stand out nice with the hello. It won't compete with it at all. There we go. So now that I have that, I might want to add a little flourishes or anything, just like my reference. I might just want to put some dots there. Or if you want to put some swirls or little bursts, by all means. Next, I'm going to go into this salmon color into the hello. And then this one I'm going to do a little bit different. So if you see the reference, it's got that nice thick lines there. And so that's just using the chisel tip. And the way I'm doing that is just shifting the way I'm angling it each time. So that even when I go to do these horizontal lines, it's still going to be chisel. So I'm just going to go down through here, making sure I'm pressing hard enough so that that color stays consistent throughout. I'm just going to tilt my paper or tilt your hand to keep that chisel going. Just going to do this out. There we go. And then also using my box as reference to make sure I'm not going too far over that edge, making sure that at the end it ends up being lined up. And now just for fun, and just like in the reference, I'm going to add a little blue at the bottom too, just so that it has a little bit of a ground, an anchor to have. And then go back to that salmon, doing that ultra fine tip. What I like is you can go right next to a thick line and then almost make it look like 3D, or just having a little bit of a protruding look to it. So now that we have this, before I'm going to erase my reference here, I'm just going to move into the plants just to let this have time to dry. So going into the plants, I'm not going to be using these colors. I'm actually going to be using some greens and blues, as well as some yellows and browns for this pot down here. So I'm just going to grab a couple yellows. So I have two different yellows. I have this super light yellow. It's almost like a sunflower. And then I also have this yellow that's just a little bit darker. And then I'm also going to grab this maroon. It looks really brown on my camera, but it's actually a little bit red. So if you have the 24 count, it should be by the gray. But I like this. I'm going to use this for the dark part of my pot. So what I'm going to do is just section that out. This is going to be my pot. And then I'm going to pull out some greens and blues for my plants too. So then for the plants, I'm going to use these three greens. We got a super light green we're going to use as our base and our blender. So remember when I was saying you just blend it together with the lightest color? This is going to be the one, this lime color. Then we have a slightly darker green color. It's almost like a foresty green. And then an even darker one. So we're just having shades of green. And then for our big cactus in the back here, I'm going to do a blue and a little bit of purple, I think. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this blue that we used for the Just Saying as our base and our blender. And then we're going to take just a darker color. This one's a little bit more green. So if you want to be more purpley, grab one of the purple ones, or even if you want to be warmer, grab a warm color. You don't have to have these exact colors. I'm just placing these here for myself. So starting with the pot, just so we have that base down here, I'm going to start with this lightest color and just start using that chisel tip and really just filling in the color. Because just like we did in our sketch of just showing you how to blend it, we need that base color before we can start blending things together. So just going through here and following that sketch that you have, or if not, just this is where you're just drawing out what you want to draw. So draw out that pot if you don't have a sketch of it and just fill it in. And that's what I love about these two is that even with something that's a little bit larger, you have that chisel tip to really help you fill in really quickly. And then also this mixed media just really holds this color well. It's really vibrant. It just helps with this layering process so well. So once you have this yellow down, what I'm going to do is I can go directly to another color or I can go over with yellow again. But in this case, I'm going to go up to the darker color. So I'm going to go into this more orange color and do the same thing that we were talking about before, where I'm just going to go over and make those shadows. And what I'm going to do is leave a highlight just so that we have a little bit of yellow peeking out. Almost as if we have a light source, just like up here almost, just kind of shining down on the pot. So again, taking that chisel tip and just going on the edges. And then, as we said before, just kind of pulling and lifting so that we kind of have a little bit of a ragged edge that we'll be able to fix later with that blending. And then just leaving that spot for that highlight there. Same thing for the bottom part below the lip. Just leaving that small part there. There we go. And you can already see that it's starting to come together here because you can still see that yellow underneath. So you already are building up color very nicely here. So once you have that down, again, we're going to go right to the darker color again, and then we're going to start blending. So now I'm going to go to this darker brownish red and then really focus in on those shadows here. And just pull from the side. I'm not going to go quite as far. Not going to go all the way to the edge because we want it to have that gradient to the yellow. We don't want it to be just sudden because then we're not going to be able to blend it quite as well. We're going to lose that highlight of that yellow if we do that. Same thing on this side. Just going to hold that down. It's kind of popping up. There we go. So once we have this all down, this is where we're going to go back with that lightest yellow. So we're going to go back to this yellow here, and we're going to do what we said before, where we're just going to kind of pull from the darks and then also work in circular motions to start blending those colors together. Now your lightest yellow might get a little bit darker, but that's why we left so much space so that we can really blend it and have it get lighter and not pull those darks too far across the pot. There we go. So you can already start to see that those harsh edges are starting to get a little better. And now what's great too is that if you feel like it's not blending quite as well as you'd like, you can always go back to another color. So like I might want to add a little bit more dark over here. It's not matching up quite as well over here. So I'm just going to go back in with this dark color and just add a little bit more color here. I might add a little dark over here to show the lip of the pot. Just a little bit. And then immediately go back to that yellow so I can blend it in. So I'll show you guys this a little closer up to the camera so you can see the way that it's blending in really nice. So you already have this lovely pot.
To bleed through, and as you're using lighter weight paper, if the product would bleed through.
Yes, yeah. With these, that's what's great about these is, as you can see, there's no bleed at all. If you have something like printer paper, just a regular sketchbook that has thinner paper, it might start to bleed through just from all that ink that you're going over with. So now that you guys can see, we already have this beautiful pot here. Already has this beautiful gradient. And so now all we gotta do is the plants now. I just missed that little edge there. Alrighty. So again, I want to work from the left to the right, just so I don't end up putting more of my hand over here on top of this ink. So I'm going to start with these bubbly boys on the left, and I want them to be more of a green. So I'm just going to pull, again, my lightest color is my base, and start filling my sketch in with these. I want to make sure I leave some room too at the top, just so I don't cover up where I'm going to put the flowers, just like this reference here. Otherwise, that yellow is going to have some green in it. So I'm just going to start filling these in. And again, with that chisel tip, it makes it so much faster. I'm also going to be working from the left to the right so that if I end up overlapping a little bit with the same color, it's going to be on the shadow side. Because like we said before, using the same color, you can still add dimension. So just making sure I'm not adding super darkness over on the right side. So while I'm filling these in, I did have a couple of trivia questions I could ask. And I wanted to ask, and you guys can answer in the comments too, but talking of postcards, stamps nowadays I think are 50 cents or 75 cents. But I feel like a lot more people use stamps back in the day. So I wanted to ask, how much do you think a stamp cost 100 years ago? So if you guys have any guesses, put in the chat, and then hopefully, Kim, you can let me know what some people are saying. I want to see if people get this, because I was blown away when I heard what it was. Okay, a lot of people actually are practically there. Yep.
I was going to say, I see a lot of pennies, 2 cents.
Oh yeah.
5 cents.
Oh yeah, everyone got it. It was 2 cents. 2 cents. That's it. And it makes me think, you know, maybe if it was 2 cents nowadays, we'd be sending more letters. But, you know, I'm not sure that we would, which is kind of sad, but those are all good guesses. When I found out it was 2 cents, I could not believe it. I was like, that doesn't sound right. But, you know, 100 years ago is a long time ago. All right, so now that we have this green laid out, I'm going to do just like I was saying before, where I go in with the same color and just kind of create those shadows on the left side. And since these are round, I'm not going to do like a harsh line like I did over here. I'm going to kind of curve what I'm doing around the bottom. So just to show you a little bit. So I'm kind of bringing it down around just so that once I blend it all together, it's going to have a soft gradient to make it look more round. So again, just kind of curving it, almost making a crescent in this circle. With the same color green too, we're already seeing this dimension. And then with this guy over here, since he's behind this big one, I'm going to put more of this green just on the right side because it's kind of hiding in the shadow over here. And so once we have that down, just like the pot, we're going to go into our darker colors. So just taking that one step up of green, just a little bit darker, we're going to do the same thing and just add a little bit of shadow over on the left, but not going all the way to this edge that we created already. Because if we go over that, it's going to get a little too dark. It's going to bleed a little bit too much into our light green. There we go. So we're almost creating layers with these, and then we're going to blend them all together. I think somebody said, how much time do you have to blend the colors together? You can actually wait quite a bit to do that. I've let things dry a little bit and then blended it, because what you're doing is you're kind of rehydrating the ink that's on the paper, but it also depends on the paper too. So if you have a really absorbative paper, sometimes you're going to want to do it immediately. But then if you have something super smooth where the ink is kind of sitting on top, you can kind of let it sit there a little bit and do something else. So again, we're going to go to the darker green just to get those really dark edges. So this one I'm not going to add a lot to. I'm just going to put it almost like right on the edge. Somebody else said, can we use a hair dryer? I am not sure if you can use a hair dryer. You can give it a shot. I've never tried that before. I always just like shake something in front of my paper and just hope that it's drying. All right, so we're gonna go back to this lighter color like we were saying and just kind of blend these colors together now. I like to use the chisel tip for the blending. So again, just pulling those dark colors out towards the edge in almost a circular motion, but also almost like a crescent, like just kind of rowing back and forth on here. Just really trying to push those colors out. And you don't even need to use a lot of pressure. Don't be rubbing your paper too hard. It might end up pulling up some of the pulp on the paper. Just let that ink rehydrate the darker colors and just pull that through. You can damage your markers that way too, so just be careful of that. So just get this little guy too. There we go. So now you can already see, look at that nice dimension in the shadowing. And again, if you're having some trouble blending it, just go back with another color, maybe one of your medium tone ones, and then just re-blend it with this lighter one to get to where you want it to be. And so now that that one's done, we can go over to the blue one. I'm going to add the flowers last, just since they're so small and up there. Let this area dry a little bit. So starting with the blue one, again, we're going to use this time to just fill in some stuff. So what's great about this is that I love that it's almost like you created your own coloring book. So it's very mesmerizing to me to just kind of sit here, fill in these colors and just blend them together. So this is always really fun. So yeah, this one's going to be quite large. So just quick fill this in. And then I do have one other trivia question for you guys. It's cacti related though. It's not postcard related because I do really like cacti. So my question is, again, answer to the chat if you know it. How many kinds of cacti are there? That's really vague, but I guess you could get more specific and say how many species of cacti are there? So I want to see what you guys have to guess. Oh, someone's close. Someone's close. Suzanne is close. There's a lot, but there's not as many as you would think. Honestly, there's not that many, considering how many species of animals there are and everything. Oh, so some people are going a little high. Okay.
I'm like, they're all over the board.
I was
1,000,
gonna say, yeah, it's like
100, 300,
400, and then like 2,600. So the answer is 2,000. So it's a lot, but I feel like that's not as many as I thought there would be. So, but there's enough to keep me entertained. So going back to this, we're gonna, again, just kind of creating these shadows with the same color. So just referencing my reference here, you see how this cactus has kind of those parts that come out. So what I'm gonna do is leave those areas, leave those lighter than the rest. So I'm gonna kind of create reference lines for me just so that I don't color in that area. So I'm gonna take the fine tip and do that. So even with just the same color, you can see how it's already showing up. But then I can still blend that out a little bit later if I need to. So I'm just creating these outlines here to have that defined a little more. So once I have those edges done, then I can go in and make that shading in here to have these parts kind of protruding out. So again, I'm going to make almost like a crescent shape and just get really close to those reference lines, but don't cover it up completely. So when you see, I leave a little bit of a border around that spot so that there's a highlight there to show that that's the part that's coming out. So I'm just going to go over that. Make sure it goes all the way to the end because I don't want to forget that it's against a pot. Just go over here, make that crescent. And then do the same over here, and you're still going to leave that border on the right side too, even though it's right up against this other side, because it's still kind of popping out more than that side. And then have that crescent over here. And then do the same thing over on the right. Just really filling in this one with a lot of color. So once we have that down, we can do the same thing that we did with the green one and just go with that darker color. But since this blue is really vibrant and really dark as it is, that's why I'm only using 2 blue colors. So I'm gonna go and use this next color. It's a little bit more of a green, a greenish blue, but it's still a lot darker than this one. So we know we're gonna get more of a shade with it. So since this one's already really dark, I'm not gonna use a lot of this because we don't need a lot. So just putting a little bit of this, we can immediately go back to this one and start blending it out. So just starting in this middle section again. And then just kind of making that crescent again, but not going nearly as far, just adding a little bit. Because even a third time with this light blue is going to get it even darker. So we don't want to overdo that one. Just adding a little bit there and a little bit over here, nothing too much. What's nice is it also starts to layer colors. So if you're not using the same palette as me, you can start layering different colors like greens and blues, and it starts making some really nice color buildup underneath each other. So experiment with that too. So now I'm going to go back with this lighter blue and just do what I said before, of just blending it all together. Because right now, you might not be able to see it, but mine's looking a little too green in the center, so that's why I'm trying to blend it out just a little bit. There we go. And also maybe just adding a little bit darker areas in the middle again too. There we go. And so now that we have that, we have this nice cacti that has a little bit of a gradient there to show those areas kind of coming out. And so now that we have our cacti down, we can actually start with our flowers. So with our flowers, I want to have them pink and yellow. So just like my reference, I wanted to have all the colors relate to each other. So having this yellow kind of relate back to the pot and then that pink relate back to the type, it really just kind of creates a circle of the same color palette. So I'm going to go back to our yellows that we used for the pot. And again, we're going to take this super light yellow and we're just going to fill in this area. Now, I didn't have much of a reference sketch for these because for me, petals are very just random and bursting. So I'm just going to make some circles and just ovals over here on top of this cactus. Because it doesn't have to be exact. Flowers don't have to be exact. It can be any flower shape you want. And then since yellow doesn't layer too well on top of itself, I'm going to take this darker one and then do the same thing and just add that shadow in the center and kind of pull out. But I'm using that ultra fine tip so that I can kind of pull out and make those petal lines, you know, those little veins that are in them too. So sometimes I like to just not even blend this area because I like that it's kind of creating that texture for me. I don't even need to worry about it. So if you don't want to blend it, no need, but if you do, by all means go for it, because I'm going to blend it here just a little bit. So I'm going back to this lighter one just to blend it a tiny bit. Just those edges there. But I'm not going to do it too much because like I said, I want to keep some of those lines because I like that texture there. There we go. And now with this pink one that's a lot bigger, again, I'm going to go back to these pink colors that I used for the hello and also for that example. So we got this really light pink and then this kind of salmon color. So I'm going to go in, again, not much of a reference here. I'm just kind of making this kind of burst here. Just some really big petals there. I'm going to make them nice and big, just as big as this cactus is. There we go. I don't know if you guys can hear the people mowing the lawn outside, but it is Friday, so I don't blame them. Summer Fridays, right? So pink actually layers pretty well with itself. So I'm actually going to go in with the same color again and do the same thing where I'm making those lines. It might not show up quite as well because I just put the ink down, but just to get those shadows kind of coming in a little bit. So it's not quite as light. So then I'm going to go back with the salmon color. And this is where I'm going to really draw in those lines and get those shadows. I just kind of want to center first and then just kind of use that ultra fine and start going through this, making those nice textural lines. I'm not being too specific on where the petals are either, because as you can see with the reference, I'm going to go back in with that ultra fine Sharpie and really define those areas. So now that I have these lines down, I'm going to go back in and blend it just a little bit. Go in, blend it out. There we go. Awesome. And so you can already see this is already absolutely beautiful. You have all these lovely gradients, all these colors here. I'm gonna go back in and just define this a little more. There we go, but I'm not gonna blend it this time. I want it to be a little darker there. Perfect. Now, before we start with the ultra fine, we don't want to forget our little dirt here. I've also done it with like yellow to make it look like sand, but I just want to cover up those little edges there, just so you know that I'm not just filling in some random little spots here. Just so the plants actually have somewhere that they're sitting. There we go. They are in a pot. Awesome. So now we can move on to doing some of the outline work. And what I love about doing outlines is it really makes it pop out. So right now it's just beautiful watercolor looking piece. But once we add those lines, it really makes it pop out and almost looks like you just printed it, which I love. But before we do that, I just want to erase some of those lines that I have just so that they're not in the way. Just gonna erase this real quick. And it's hard to tell, but like I was saying before, you can almost erase the sketching underneath the color, which blows my mind. I don't know how it does that. Like, how can it have the lead underneath it and I'm still able to erase it? But I'm not going to question it because I love that it does that.
Summer, we've got a couple questions. Once they're dry, the color's permanent?
Generally, yes. I mean, in my opinion, no color is really permanent in an art piece. I haven't had any issues though doing this and like mailing it to people. So I would say no. I mean, if you were worried about it, I would get some like spray coverage that like you can get at Michael's actually and just spray over it if you really want to be safe. But I've had no trouble with these and they've lasted. But I'm also young, so you know, I don't know, 50 years down the line, it might the colors might fade. And the best eraser to use, I just saw someone ask, I'm just using a Papermate Sharpwriter pencil right now. I love these erasers because they're nice and soft, but I've had some pretty good use with the Prismacolor erasers as well. I just like the really soft gummy ones. Awesome. So now that that's erased, we can go in and start our ultra fine. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes, yeah. Someone said pink pearl. Yeah, it's a pink pearl eraser. That's the official name. And then someone said, can you write get well? Absolutely. You can write anything you want. And that's what's also great about this paper, is that, oh, I almost froze for a second, is that it comes with this back area for you. So you can write their address over here, and then you can write your message over here. So you can either write it on the front or you can write it on the back. You can write wherever you want. So starting with this ultra fine stuff here, one of the things that I have in my reference that I'm going to do is writing this cursive hello just on top, just to add a little something fun, a little flair onto that message. And one way that I do this is to reference each letter and put that letter on top of itself. Whenever I see people do this with super long words, sometimes I see them writing it maybe HE a little too close together, not spreading out enough. So the way I do it is just focus on centering each letter within its original letter. So we have the H with the H, the E with the E, the L with the L, and so forth. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to start with that little flourish at the beginning and then end with one as well. So I'm just going to go up, and don't be afraid to let go too. Doing cursive, you think it's something where you go it just continuously, but in reality you lift it up a lot. So don't be afraid to lift up and continue your line. And just get those nice thin lines. There we go. So now we already have it saying hello. It's got a little bit more of dimension now, a little more fanciness there. And so what I like to do, again, like I said, is just outline everything to have it a little bit more bold, as well as add the one thing that we're missing on this cactus, which is those little spikes. So let's add our little spikes and make them real cacti. So what I love about this is you can add as many as you want. You can add a ton of spikes, or you can add no spikes, or even if you want to add more flowers on the edges, you can. There we go. Again, apologies if you can hear the person mowing their lawn. I think they're right outside. Make sure you guys can see what I'm doing here. I'm just going over and making the petals. So it was kind of like a blob almost, but now that I'm defining it with this line, you can really start to see the shapes that I'm creating here. And really defining those circles that we made with those greens too. I'm not going to go in and make the circles because I think it's going to be too much. It's going to make them too outlined. We still want to keep that nice watercolor look to it. So we're just going to do kind of referential outlines here. Go. This is great. Awesome. The S notes do not have the same odor, which is awesome because you don't have to worry about the smell. Because I have some people, I have some friends that don't like the smell of them very well, but these have no scent to them at all. So it's great. And yet the ink is still super vibrant, which is amazing. Just gonna go through here. And again, we kind of had a blob here on this one, but I'm just kind of going in and creating those petals. And since I kind of have that outline and have that nice gradient already in there, I don't need to worry too much about where I'm making the petals because I already created those shadows for myself. So throughout this entire process, you're kind of helping yourself build this out. And then I'm also going to draw a black line on these parts that are coming out too, just so that it's consistent with these edges too. Just have a little bit more graphical there. And now I can add my little pokies here. There we go. And then not just on the edges, don't forget the inside too, or else it's gonna look a little flat. So if you're adding some pokies, don't forget to do some in the middle here in both directions. You still want to make it look like it's rounded a little bit. Here we go, just some little guys on that little one there. On the edges too, don't want to forget that. What I like about this is that this little one's kind of peeking over into the saying hello. Almost like it's saying hello to you. So now that we have these going down, trying to give this one a little bit bigger spikes because it's a bigger cactus. There we go. And so we're almost done, guys. Just about. I just want to add a little line right here on the bottom where the dirt is. Just in here. Just align that up. There we go. And there you go. There you have it, guys. Look at this beautiful card. Some people might still be wrapping up a little bit, but this is what we have as our finished piece. Just this beautiful watercolor looking cacti with some nice bold outlines. And then you're always ready to just go and send it right away. So again, don't forget to tag us with Michael's classes and make it with Michael's. If you ever post about this, we love to see it. And I also want to open up this end part because I think we have just about 11 minutes or 10 minutes left. If anyone has any other Q&A, as well as I'd love to see what you guys created today. If you want to go into gallery mode. You're welcome, Christine. I'm glad you had fun. Oh, yes, yeah. I got a couple compliments on the duck. I had to put him there because he's big and beautiful. So does anyone want to share what they made? Does anyone have their cameras up? I can't see too much. See. Does anyone want to hold up what they're doing?
I can see them. If you go into gallery mode, I'm seeing a lot of them. They look awesome.
Oh my gosh, that looks great. Mary Ellen, I love that you made the whole pot and the hello's so big. That looks great, guys. Oh my gosh, look at them all. They look fantastic, everyone. They look great. You're welcome. Oh, someone did lavender. A planet? Oh my gosh. So creative, guys. This is fantastic. I love seeing all these. Yeah, you're welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Kim, do we have any other questions or anything?
No other questions, just lots of comments.
Oh, wow.
Super fun class.
Awesome. I'm looking through all this work. It's beautiful, guys. That's great. We made that. Oh, we got 2 people over there. At Kay Barrett. Someone drew a beach. Olivia. I love that. Very creative. You even have like the ocean get deeper there. This is great, guys. Thank you so much for joining. And then also, just as a heads up too, Michael's has so many classes. So if you guys love this class, check out the website. There's a ton happening. In fact, I think there's one happening right after this. And there's tons of different skill levels. So ones that are much higher end fine art, as well as just some beginner stuff if you're interested in that. So check them out, learn more stuff. I always am encouraging people to do that. And then also don't forget to hashtag Michael's classes and everything. And so that's about it. I think it's about it. Do we have anything else, Kim, that we should be going over?
Nope, I think that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you so much.